intro, our title of our show comes from Acts chapter 4, verse 13. Now, as they observed the confidence of Peter and John and understood that they were uneducated and untrained men, they were amazed and began to recognize them as having been with Jesus. So, even though we may be somewhat uneducated, our goal is to spend more time with Christ so that he can transform and change our lives. So if you're joining us today and you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, make sure you subscribe. And if you like the video, you can click the like button, or you don't have to. You can do whatever you want. This is a free country. Well, it used to be, so just click the button. Do what we tell you to do.
You can do what you want on YouTube.
Yeah.
Kinda. No,
Yeah.
you can't. Never mind.
Not at all. So just do what we tell you to do. Click the like button, and then tell all your friends to click the like button as well. And we'll all get in on it. All right, so today we have a special guest with us. This is Dan Cartwright. Dan, thanks for being here.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
So Dan is a long friend and pastor, friend and colleague in pastoral ministries. And Dan pastors a church in Garrettsville. Name of the church again, just because
Covenant Bible Fellowship.
Covenant Bible Fellowship. So real quick, before we get into your story, tell us a little bit of just quick history on the church itself, because it's got a neat history with Tori, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, well, the church started in 1834, second oldest church in Garrettsville. That's one thing. But then in the 1880s, they had a pastor. They called a pastor right out of seminary who was R.A. Torrey. And he pastored two churches at the same time, the Garrettsville church and a Nelson church. So that's the next community over, which is now actually part of Garrettsville. But and then eventually the church I'm at, Covenant Bible Fellowship, at that time was United Church of Garrettsville, got Torrey to come over exclusively. So they kind of took him from the Nelson flock, and he was there. They had a revival. There were about 1,000 people in Garrettsville at that time, and they saw people getting healed, lots of people coming to know the Lord. They were having morning and evening services, and they were praying one morning, and he believed that something big was going to happen that night. And that very night, the town drunk came and got saved, and that kind of blew everything wide open, because then it was like, if the town drunk can get saved,
Right.
anybody, God can get through to anyone. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a great yeah, that's cool. And he's written some books, and if you were to give him affiliation, what's he affiliated?
The first president of the Moody Bible Institute.
Okay, yeah.
So
that's what I thought.
But really, the other thing is he preached when he was an older man. He went in Europe and all those areas, and he preached did a lot of evangelistic stuff right before like the Welsh revival.
Okay.
So it was
Wow.
kind of, he was setting, God was using him to set some of that stage.
Yeah. That's the pace. Wow. All right. Can you guys top that with your church?
I am the church.
That's good. That's good. So Matt asked earlier how our days were, or how our week went.
Yep.
And then he said he didn't care.
I don't care.
So I'm just wondering why you asked then. Just what you're supposed to do, right?
Yeah, that's
just
what you
a
do.
nice thing to do.
It's a nice thing to do.
But then you're at least
But then
honest.
I really don't want to know, so you shut it right off.
Right.
So I'm being nice.
Yeah.
You usually just see that in somebody's face.
Right.
But you actually were honest with us.
Oh, yeah.
Because normally people give you a look like, oh no, you're giving me an explanation of how your week really went, and I don't care.
Yeah.
My pre-salvation superpower was lying. I'm really good at it.
It seems to have carried.
Sometimes it sneaks out. It is what it is.
Well, we were just talking earlier this morning, too, about the idea of honesty, and we're just so glad that Hunter Biden has now been honest with us.
And that is.
He admits that is his laptop.
Oh.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, not that nobody knew that beforehand, but at least he's a good guy and admits it. So.
He's ready to pick it up.
Well,
right. I got some files on there.
It's his laptop, and now he wants to sue people for touching it and getting stuff off. That's my stuff.
Right.
They're actually trying to claim copyright.
Right.
It's crazy.
It is crazy.
Crazy.
And nothing will happen.
And nothing will happen.
Yeah, not at all. So, all right. Anything else good happened this week before we get into some stuff?
Let's get into some stuff.
All right, let's get into some stuff.
What kind of stuff we're getting into?
All right, well, the first thing we're going to get into is I thought since Dan's our special guest, I'd let him just give us briefly his background story because it's almost like a near-death type of thing, right?
You want me to give all of that?
if you can do it in like 7.5 minutes.
Well, yeah.
Because
we need the condensed version.
Yeah, Matt runs a tight ship here.
Yeah.
And we got to get into the conspiracy stuff fairly quick or else we're in trouble.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what'll take forever.
All right, so I actually I grew up. My dad was a pastor. I grew up in the church. As a teenager, I went away. I stepped away from it. I was out trying to figure out something else and just see what life had to offer. I don't know, kind of like Solomon trying to get into as far as I could go or whatever. I got in with some wrong crowds, and then actually I started going to a youth group and put my life back in the Lord's hands. And see, I wasn't going to share that part, but now we're going to go into that. And then like later on, I started to stumble again. And I got to a point where I was at a very low point, and I about took my life. So, and I'm giving you the condensed version.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, in fact, I probably should have died, and I got a nice scar over here from it.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow.
And
Can you just, because that's a pretty
nice scar.
Yeah, it's a nice scar, but it's a pretty crazy story. Can you just at least tell the guys that?
Yeah, I'll tell you the story. So, thanks for putting me on the spot, Brian.
Sorry. I have a way of doing that, right?
I put a 357 Magnum, and it was loaded only with one bullet in my mouth, and I thought I had loaded it 2 clicks away. So I was holding it sideways because I was trying to get like the courage or the stupidity to do it.
So you wanted a dry fire.
Yeah, I wanted to practice first.
Nice.
And then I didn't realize, and the gun went off. So yeah, and it really should have hit my carotid artery.
Yeah.
And I should have just bled out, but it didn't happen. And so.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, I thought you were gonna say like sword.
No, I didn't do anything silly
Okay.
like that. Yeah. Boy, that'd be wild.
Yeah.
Tried to kill yourself with a sword. Tried to chop your own head off.
Oh no! Listen, I would be listening all ears.
Yeah. No, yeah. So it wasn't that glorious, I guess.
No, 357. Yeah.
Yeah, it knocked me back. It was actually interesting. It was I don't want to glorify this really. Thank God, and I want to share that in a minute. It was a hollow point, a cop killer. So it really should have exploded. I mean, when they hit watermelons, they explode.
Right.
And it didn't explode when it chipped my bone, and it didn't explode. It
Carried
started
through.
to when it went up into the beam, like above. Yeah, that's when it started to expand, but not, and it should have blew the whole thing open and hit my artery.
Wow.
But so I was so down in the dumps, and Satan was. I mean, I don't know, he was just all around. This was definitely his idea. It was very dark,
Yeah.
very demonic, very oppressed, very.
Did you have voices in your head?
I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of things going on. Yeah, I did definitely, but the minute I fell back on the bed, I was like, "It's a lie. That's a lie."
But did all that stop? Did all that when that happened? All that stuff just stopped.
Yeah, it was all done, and God was there like that. And I felt God all over the room. Like,
there's a movie called The Bridge. I talk about this all the time. There's a guy in there who gives a testimony that the voices in his head tell him to do it. He left the bridge and stopped. He was all by himself.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Hit the water, and he lived to tell about it.
Wow. Yeah. I never thought of it that way, but yeah, you're right. That is because there was a
they
lot
torment
of
you to get you to where you go, and then you're done with you.
yeah,
They're done.
because
Yeah.
they've destroyed your life.
As far as they're concerned,
yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and then the sun came out. I remember, and then I wanted to live, so I got up, got a towel, put it on my face. putting pressure.
Yeah, yeah.
And my mom's driving like 100 miles an hour to the hospital. We get there, and here I am. So that's
She was in the house when you did that?
Yeah.
So did she come running when she heard?
Yeah, well, my 7-year-old sister is the first person to see me.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
like, at least I had a blanket, but my clothes were, for a while, I kept those clothes, but we got rid of them. That was a good idea.
Wow.
There's a lot of blood on them, but yeah.
And so then you decided, well, God's the answer, so now I got to figure out how to follow him. When did you sense the call to pastoral ministry?
Oh, I had it before then.
Okay.
Yeah,
gotcha.
I was just being a knucklehead.
Running from it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, running from. Yeah. Yeah, there's a couple things went through my mind because I actually, for the next 8 weeks, would have my jaw wired and not. But at that point, because I totally shattered my jaw, I'm like, man, I bet you I could chew the biggest burger ever. Dumb things you think of, those like big. I can open my mouth big enough. Now I still can't open my mouth as big as I ever could before.
Gotcha.
But so God worked in that way too, I guess.
Wow.
My mouth's smaller. But
Well, God is definitely good.
yeah.
Yeah. And so now you're a pastor at the church in Garrettsville, but you also are a chaplain in the United States military, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
in the National Guard, Army, Ohio National Guard. So,
Okay. All right.
yeah. So
All right.
Cool.
So that's Dan's story, and on top of that, we're gonna just get into a couple things. But I wanted to throw this out. Dan will start, and then we'll get in on this. But Dan, as a military guy, chaplain in the National Guard, and so you work with the government, and you're part of all that stuff. And how important is it to support our military and the people who are fighting for the freedoms of this country, and yet still keep a wise eye on the government who seems like they want to destroy us? Because you had sent a thing in the text this week that said the scripture text is wise as serpents and harmless as doves. Mm-hmm. So thoughts on that?
yeah, actually, I got the scripture open right here.
Okay.
It's okay to share it.
Yep.
I'll read it a little more. Behold, I send you out as sheep in the midst of wolves. So be shrewd as serpents and as innocent as doves. But beware of men, for they will hand you over to the courts and scourge you in their synagogues, and you will even be brought before governors and kings for my sake, as a testimony to them and to the Gentiles. But when they hand you over, don't worry about how or what you are to say, for it will be given you that hour what you are to say. For it is not you who speak, but it is the Spirit of your Father who speaks in you. And then it goes on to say, brother will betray brother to death, and the father his child. And children will rise up against parents and cause them to be put to death. You will be hated by all because of my name, but it is the one who has endured to the end who will be saved. And then he goes on, one more verse, might as well finish out the section. But whenever they persecute you in one city, flee to the next. For truly I say to you, you will not finish going through the city of Israel until the Son of Man comes. So I guess back to the question on the government, and no one trusts the government less than those who work for it. So, for instance, every soldier I've ever talked to, they don't, because we see, and there are things we see, but I don't know. Does that get the ball rolling? Or do you have more on? Do you want me to elaborate more on that?
Well,
We just want to know about Area 51.
Yeah, so do I.
Oh,
But I'd have to. What
Here-
I've learned.
I guess here's how it seems to me. It seems to me like you have the soldier and you have the infrastructure and the working military,
Mhm.
and then you have the different compartments around it we'll go all the way FBI, CIA, NSA. They're all supposed to be working together to support in the military and defense of the country. But those upper compartments are totally lost. Like, they are running the country, as far as I can tell. And so that's why I think the soldier, depending on who you are, because we have another friend of the show who also was a chaplain in the military, and he doesn't seem as concerned about it. Am I wrong?
Right. No. Right.
So like I think there are those that are like, no, this is all legit. It's fine. You're a crazy nutbag. And then there are those that are like, no, this has been co-opted and it's a little scary right now.
So as wise as serpents, as innocent as dove, and I don't know this other chaplain, so I'm not.
Yeah.
against-
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying. I'm just trying to express that I think, much like our population in general as a country, you have people that think side one, and you have people that think side two.
Yeah.
But as we discuss here on this show a lot, side one and side two are not just different views of the same coin anymore. You're literally picking sides. We're coming down to picking sides.
On that note, I was watching a English podcaster. I'm not going to recommend him. I was just watching during the week, and one of the things he said is there is no longer left or right. It is wrong or right.
Correct. Yeah.
Which that's where I'd stand. It's wrong or right.
There's wrong and right. Yeah. I mean, because you can't anymore the kind of decisions, and I'll make this general population citizen. You either are in defense of life and the unborn, or you want them dead.
You see what Minnesota did.
But like, not immediately. I know they got rid of Ilhan Omar, and she's from Minnesota.
Well, that's different. Yeah, that was a good thing. But
That was
Minnesota
great.
passed the most aggressive abortion now on demand law ever.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and Minnesota nice is gone. I don't know if you've ever been to Minnesota. Everybody smiles. Everybody's nice. Now you know what
But
those
here's
smiles
the-
really were. No.
Here's the thing: they really are still nice.
They are nice.
I go up. I love Minnesota and Wisconsin. When I go up there, it's terrific.
Yeah.
But yet they are beds, and I think it's because of their niceness and their naivete and the ability to let people do what they do.
Love.
Yeah, they love that their leadership has turned dark and been allowed to run amok.
Yeah.
Because the people up there just want to live
Yeah.
and let live.
They want to live and let live.
Right.
It's a
And-
beautiful country.
But in the meantime, sneaky garbage has moved into the political seats up there
Yeah.
and run amok.
34 to 32. That's how the vote went.
Yeah.
So that tells you how close.
No, that's how everything is here.
Yep.
I mean, it doesn't matter where the election is or how it goes. We are on that knife edge. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, we could go either way.
Either way. Yeah.
See what happens.
Yeah.
So when you say aggressive Minnesota, it's like New York back during COVID days. They signed into law, the baby could be out on the table.
Yeah.
Give us some time. So what's Minnesota looking like?
It's the same thing.
Oh, same thing. Okay.
Yeah, but for some reason, and I didn't read the whole bill. I was trusting to others. Is everyone that I heard on it is calling it more aggressive, and I'm not exactly sure why. But even more than New York's, Virginia tried too, but that didn't end up sticking. But New York's even more aggressive than New York's, is what I'm told. So.
Yeah.
Did you see the Church of Satan's thing?
No.
They're trying to get something started where a woman of their congregation, or whatever you want to call it, can have a baby, and then they can sacrifice the baby.
Ooh.
Yeah. And it's like their abortion.
I read that this week.
Yeah, they want to put that in law or something. Or
That is what abortion is.
yeah.
Yeah.
It is sacrificing the baby to
They
the
might
devil.
But they
might
want
as
to do
well.
it, not like a doctor.
Not a government doing
Yeah,
it.
not a government doing
So this is so, like, my eyes just went boom. So when all the conspirator Christians were saying that abortion was like sacrificing children to Molech, everybody was like, oh, you guys are all, no, that's not it. This is women's choice. This is about whatever, blah, blah, blah. But now we've got a group of people that worship the adversary, and they want to have babies. They want it to be put into law for them to be able to have them and sacrifice them to Satan.
the Baphomet.
And now yeah, that is crazy. Wow.
Yeah. Where'd they put that statue at, Matt?
Isn't it in the Capitol or
Washington?
Yeah, they have one in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
and Detroit. and
Well,
one in
Oklahoma
Hollywood.
was the first state where they hauled it to their capital, and
And what's
That was a
interesting
mobile one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah, that was the
Okay.
mobile one.
is that Baphomet has a bunch of children
Around it.
You know,
And you say Baphomet. That's the statue.
yeah, I think that's what they call
It's
it.
like the goat
Horned
devil
goat.
looking-
Oh yeah.
Devil thing.
Okay. Molech, pretty much. Yeah. Okay. Wow.
Well, so going back to where we started with the military thing, just this talk right here, which you can easily bring up in newspapers and read about it or old news stories. There are still people that think we're talking crazy, and they will not believe what you're saying.
Yeah.
And this is very superficial. This is nothing compared to, I think, how dark and hidden the lies go, as it were. You
Right.
know, so
So I got So it's funny you asked me to tell that story because I think that's really what I was thinking of without thinking about when after the whole thing happened and I felt God's presence. I woke up and said it's a lie. Like, you know what I mean? I got up and I'm like, I got to tell people this is a lie. Meaning to kill yourself, it's going to whatever be good, whatever. And that's really not even realizing it, and probably because of what I read right there in in that very hour, he'll give you what to say. So many people are asleep. Their eyes aren't open.
No.
Their spiritual eyes aren't open, and a lot of Christians are asleep.
Wow.
And that's irritating and frustrating because, and to me, it actually looks like pastors and Christians, and we were talking about some other leaders earlier today, and we'll probably get into that, I think. But they don't believe in the devil. That's the problem. I mean, they may believe in God, but they don't believe in the devil.
Right.
They don't think the devil has the power he has. They don't think the devil is possible to do something like COVID or something like the government. You know what I mean? The lockdowns and everything we saw.
Like he's marching against mankind.
Yeah, and he is.
Yeah,
he
is.
The Bible says he's
Right.
good. Yeah,
That's
this
right.
is his whole plan.
That's right.
So it's like it's a surprise to so many people, or they're asleep, and it's like, and then they wake up, or they don't wake up.
And again, we are literally coming to a point where it is so obvious and in your face, and yet people will not. They will not see it.
Yeah.
They don't want to, or something.
They refuse
They
because
refuse.
it's so bad.
Yeah.
It's like the Matrix in some
It
way.
is.
I mean,
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Do you want to wake up? No.
Well, and where this goes is the Matrix.
It does.
It goes to humanity being a machine. They're going to turn humanity into a machine.
Don't you think Hollywood? Remember the interesting thing where the Satan statues are? Hollywood is one. That's where the big worship of Satan is. And also in D.C., which are the powers of America,
Right.
which makes sense. And then the other mobile, and then they had one up in Detroit. And they have them other places too, but those are the big places where the devil, I think, my opinion, again, is worshipped in this country. And I think in movies, and I've heard a lot of other people say this, is the devil runs most of the movie industry. Most of it, not all of it, most of it. And there is... anyway, I'm not gonna go into that. That's a conspiracy. No, I'm just kidding. But there is, I think he's given a roadmap for what he wants to do.
Right.
So the Matrix was probably a roadmap
Right.
written by the devil himself.
Well, I mean,
So,
have you ever seen the movie The Ninth Gate with Johnny Depp?
I feel like I have. Is it an older movie?
It's an older movie.
Yeah, then okay. Yeah, I
And,
have, yeah.
and I think that idea about that whole movie where they were chasing down the satanic books,
Yeah.
because there are people that want that power. Okay,
Yeah.
there are people that want the original sin, right? And they're like, screw everything else. That's the way to go.
Yeah.
That's your Satanist.
Yeah.
So why would we be surprised that is happening?
Well,
We shouldn't be.
well, yeah, and then so when Hitler was looking for all these things, and he
Yeah.
was trying to make this perfect race, and this is all demonic, America and other people said, well, he's just a crazy. He's just one of those crazos, and we stopped him. But yeah, we took all of his researchers and we brought him over here to start doing some of probably the same exact stuff.
Because
Or
that was okay. So
scientists.
that was already we already were co-opted. We were fine with the Nazis.
I know.
We were fine. they flew their blimp over to the Empire State Building or whatever, Chrysler Building or whatever they attached to.
Yeah.
The Pope was fine with them. We were fine with them. Everything was cool.
Right.
I don't know what changed that for us. I know they say Pearl Harbor, but I think there's a lot of workings there that we still have no. Because then you look at like it had to be that almost had to be a holy war, World War II, like a holy war, like that God was like, I'm not ready for this to happen yet, and that got shut down.
I think it was 2 of the nuns from the monastery that Hitler was at went to the Pope and said he was very disrespectful when he was a kid, and we need to take him out.
You think so?
I think that's what happened.
No, I think things just happen. What's the word you're looking for when God intervenes?
Divine intervention.
Yeah, divine intervention.
Thank you.
Providence.
Providence. Yeah,
There it is.
It's going to happen when He wants it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like when Jesus died. He didn't die till it was time.
Yeah.
He made the decision. Yeah, I would agree with that because you can see the German might. They should have destroyed the GIs, the American forces. But
Yeah.
time and time again, God intervened. And Patton was a godly man. So, I mean, you had godly leaders still in there. Of course, they killed him for it, but...
Right.
Isn't it weird? So you look at and so really I hear you're a bit of a conspiracy theorist on paper. You go all the way back to the founding of this country, and it is my belief that this country was founded with the freedom of here's the Satanists, here's the Christians, Puritans, and then Illuminati, founding father type, the Masonic belief, okay, and it's like we're gonna lay the country out so that we can do our stuff in the dark and the secret. We're gonna allow the Puritan to have their freedom they've never had before because we're gonna need it too, right?
Yeah.
And then this is America is let the chips fall where it may.
See, I don't aspire to a lot of the founding fathers being Illuminati. I think some of them were, but I don't think a lot of them were. I do know the Illuminati and the Cabal and whatever you want to call it, Club of Rome,
Right.
whatever you call it, the
there's
300,
tons of groups.
the Skull and Bones, but they all are the same people.
They're all right.
They all go to Davos.
Right.
I mean,
But all right, so
But I know George Washington was a Freemason, to what extent? But I also had a guy at my church that was a Freemason. You know what I mean? So
and so this is like I can't judge a man's heart.
yeah,
I don't know anything about. I never met George Washington.
me either.
Maybe I'll see him someday.
Hopefully, yeah.
Maybe I won't.
Yeah,
I do know about some of the stuff you read about him is really great and terrific, and some of the stuff you read about him ain't so terrific.
Yep.
And I do know that Washington does seem to be set up as a area of Satan worship.
yeah.
Okay. Whether I've heard stories he started that.
Yeah, I feel like it was about 100 years after his what was it? No, 50 years after when they set up Washington. But I don't know about that. That's a good, interesting.
Trying to think of the guy's name, the chief
the
architect.
the Frenchman. Yeah, I can't
He
remember
was
his
a
name.
chief architect that did that, but he did use Masonic
Oh yeah, they're
calculations
everywhere.
and everything. Yeah.
But like I've heard or read, and I'm pulling stuff off of wallpaper, so from what I remember, George Washington, he laid the foundation for one of the buildings down there, using techniques and practices of the Masons to establish like the cornerstone of Washington.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Well, Washington was never in Washington, so it'd have to have been in Philadelphia or New York, because when he was president, that's where he was. Adams is the first president in Washington, in the swamp, as he called it, a terrible swamp. So Thomas Jefferson, maybe that story would be related to Thomas Jefferson.
Maybe it was
yeah.
Thomas Jefferson.
Which would be more of a troubled character in our founding fathers, even though he had good beliefs in what he wrote, but he didn't practice them.
But either way, so this is going to go all the way back to the point where I want to start about Patton.
Yeah, sorry.
Because I may be doing exactly what I'm talking about to Washington. We seem to mucky muck the actual good guys of our past.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The people who saved us from some calamity or a misstep, they end up getting stories like I don't know where you are on Andrew Jackson. Somehow he ended up on a $20 bill. I think he saved us from central banking so long ago. But what is he remembered for? Trail of Tears.
Yeah.
That's not great.
No.
That was a bad time in our history. And I know he probably had some characteristics that weren't so wonderful.
Yeah.
But at the same time, kept us out of central banking for another 75 years.
Yeah.
Right?
Which you'd say Thomas Jefferson did that too.
Right.
He thwarted
Hamilton.
Hamilton.
Hamilton, yeah.
He's the bad guy. Just
Right.
if you didn't know, he's the bad guy.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
and the other, well, anyway, yeah. And Andrew Jackson, for me, the only problem I have with him, it isn't even the Trail of Tears. My problem is when he was a general in Florida and he was arresting government officials without habeas corpus,
Okay.
which means he held them without trial. That's
Right.
the same argument I have against Abraham Lincoln. Everybody loves Abraham Lincoln,
Right.
but he broke the law and didn't keep the Constitution.
Right.
So anyway, sorry.
Yeah. Well, this is a thing about what you find out about human nature.
Yeah.
And about. I grew up in the day left over of like yay George Washington, yay Abraham Lincoln, even yay FDR. Okay, you
That's
know,
a tough one, but
and we are a country of men who. All of them, they have their questionabilities.
Look at the Bible.
Yeah.
All these men that have their questionability.
Correct,
I
yeah.
think going back to that is God used them. Maybe some of them like Nebuchadnezzar. You know what I
Sure.
mean? They're evil and he used them for good.
Sure.
And I'm not talking about against their will.
Yeah.
And I still think George Washington is good because he stopped believing in God in 1926. So so that, you know, when they started writing new things about George Washington, he had been dead for 127 years.
Yeah,
So-
yeah.
and he stopped believing in God.
Yeah.
As well as Benjamin Rush and some, Noah Webster and John Jay.
But a lot of those guys were like pastors.
Yeah, they were pastors.
They were
as
pastors.
well.
They weren't government men.
Yeah, they became government men. But
Yeah.
because they had to. There were 19 ministers. Yeah, that signed the Declaration of Independence. So.
Yeah, and I like again that to me that's a providence in our history of God intervening, because I think my belief right now is we were set up as a playing board for the final game here of good versus evil.
We could be the new Babylon.
Yeah,
In other words, yeah.
right.
At least 13 of the folks that signed the independence were Freemasons.
Yeah. I knew there were some, and I'm not saying there.
And how many pastors did you say?
19.
Yeah. So
And how many were there? 47 or 40?
It's 40 something. Yeah. I didn't know we were going to talk about this. Could have had notes.
Well, Matt's alluding to a really interesting thought, and that is like, and you just said, we could be the new Babylon, and you take that back to Nebuchadnezzar, and so the enemy has always been working out his plan to raise up an antichrist and to try to thwart God's plan of redemption in the world, right? So what is your thought on the idea that we are closer to this concept of Antichrist being raised up, and not necessarily just a person, but the spirit of Antichrist is well established everywhere? But when you go throughout the world, the United States seemed to be the only holdout for Christianity. And a while back, Barack Obama said, I think it was in 2000-something, whenever he was in Egypt, he said, we're no longer a Christian nation. So where are you at, like, from, because you see a lot through the military, you also watch through other lenses, but where are we at in this Ephesians realm where we do not fight against flesh and blood, but against the principalities and spiritual forces in heavenly and wicked places? We have been talking about this for a while. We see that taking place, But a lot of people are just like, well, if we get the right president in and the economy gets right, we'll be right back to normal. But I think a tide has turned, and I think we're in this demonic area where the spiritual realm is
around 9/11.
Around 9/11, and the spiritual realm is really, going headlong. Like we're ready to bring in the Antichrist. We're ready to do this. Where are you at on that thought?
So I think it could happen, but I don't know if it will. I mean, it could happen. I think we've been close to it. Like you're talking about World War II, we've been close before, and then God intervened because it's God's timeline, not ours. So. And the other thing is depending on, I'm still not sold on to tell you the truth, my exact end times view. It could be that America just no longer exists and we're not New Babylon.
Sure.
You know what I mean? That
Right.
because there's a lot of things I don't know when I read every time I read Revelation.
Right.
More things I don't know. And then it's like, man, I used to think this was a cool book, but this is scary. The more you read, the more you're like, man. But going back to the spiritual realm, there for sure is a spiritual battle going on, and I think a lot of the church is missing it because
we're worried about what latte is going to be at the church today.
What the coffee shop in the back of the church, yeah.
What did they say that what we're having at the dinner after service? Was it going to be good? Should we go out to eat instead?
When's this guy going to be done talking?
Yeah, when's this guy done talking?
Yeah.
I sure hope they don't have
Football
a final
game's
song,
on.
a closing song.
Yeah, I hope they don't do a closing song.
Yeah, I got to watch that football game.
Football game.
Yeah. Or they're going to kneel for the flag.
This is our modern church. It's a modern church.
Yeah. It is. And so that's why somebody said, will American church ever experience persecution? Probably not. Because we pulled ourselves out of the game when we agreed with the government and said we weren't essential. How about that?
That's a good point.
Yeah, when we agreed, we're like, yeah, we're not essential.
See, I had an uncle who said it goes all the way back to 501c3.
It could.
When the government bought the church.
It could.
Yeah.
Yeah, without taxes, tax-free. Well, according to the Constitution, none of us should be taxed anyway, except for by our states.
Right.
So that's in the original document, not talking about amendments afterwards that were, again, in the 1900s.
When things went a little crazy.
Yeah.
It is tax season.
It is tax season.
It is. Yeah.
Welcome,
pay your
everyone.
tax. Don't forget to pay your taxes, viewers.
Also, when you had like Pike, Helena Blavatsky, like Satanism was becoming fashionable. That was when, to me, it kind of became public again. It was because you had people who were running around cities doing whatever they wanted to do without God and godlessness, and it was I don't know. We don't know when it's going to come, because we kind of talked about this 2 weeks ago. Surely people in the Dark Ages thought this will be the end. This is terrible, right? Yeah. And then Satan, as much as we think he's in the open today, I think in the 1920s he was going nuts, and using our government and governments of the world. When was the French Revolution?
It's in the 1790s.
Was it that way back that far?
Yeah, but that is definitely Satan.
Yeah.
That's a godless revolution.
That was a godless revolution, and so you see that percolating up. To me, though, we're stacking them closer and closer in history. Mm-hmm. Like they're accelerating, and we're going to be AI in the next 20 years.
Oh, Elon Musk is right.
If we don't figure this out, we're done.
Yeah.
Like in 20 years, we will be the Matrix.
You'll be plugged in.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, Elon Musk said that. Big AI guy. He's like, but this is going to be the death of humanity if God doesn't intervene. Yeah.
Right.
And it was funny. My wife and I, we were walking down the mall, which hardly exists anymore. I know because everybody's shopping online for Amazon. Keep giving to the cabal. That's a good idea. But
the auto parts are about half price.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's how the cabal works. Everything's got to be affordable for you. But anyway, so we're walking and we see this news headline, and we don't ever watch the fake news. But so this news, and I'm reading it, and it says robots given lethal force in San Francisco. And I'm like, it's like a movie. Come on, you watch the movies and you see
That just happened a couple weeks ago.
Well, yeah, officially, yeah. But they were talking. It was a couple months ago. They were talking about
it?
going to do it.
Okay.
Then it became law or whatever, rule now in San Francisco.
So they could kill you?
Yeah, they can kill you. Yeah, a robot can make a decision.
Isn't it
if
crazy
you're-
though?
Yeah.
Way before the robots were anything like we see them now, they were given rights almost like people. They couldn't be used as like slave objects for like the regular person.
Yeah.
Right?
Bicentennial Man,
Yeah.
the old movie.
But like really quickly, I've always thought wouldn't it be awesome if I had a robot that could go do my job, and then I could tinker with stuff on my workbench?
Multiplicity. That's cloning.
Okay.
Another movie.
Yeah. No, it's true. Well, this wouldn't be cloning as so much as
You could, is what I'm
you have
saying.
a work robot,
Yeah.
right? And then then regular man could invent, create, do artwork. I don't know. I know we wouldn't do it. I know we would fall by the evil of our own hand. I got it.
Yeah,
But I mean,
it'd be like in the day of Noah.
as right, but as a high flight thought, the man would never give us robots to go work so that we could enjoy life too. It's never about that with the rulers of this world. Yeah. It's about how they can rule over us, right? And so the robot has the right to not be a slave or be, I don't know what the term you want to put. I'm just going to say a slave. And then immediately they turn around and they go, oh, and by the way, the robot could kill little people. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's crazy to me. It blows my mind.
Do you think the robot thing, the AI thing, is just a distraction, though, from the reality of what is becoming very blatant in our face, and that is the demonic realm? Like, I mean, I know that the demonic realm is using this, but do you think it's just kind of almost like a distraction so that the demonic realm can do it, and then all of a sudden the demonic realm is going to become the reality?
Well, I think, again, my theory about AI being the Antichrist, computers came from our heads.
Right.
Our heads are wicked and evil.
Right.
AI is a culmination of piling on evil after evil after evil, and now you think that thing coming out of there is going to be any good?
Yeah.
It's a evil pigs in a blanket.
Right.
Now it can talk.
Right. Right.
Like
and think.
Just like CERN being the bottomless pit, or where the locusts come out of in Revelation, we could say that man could be creating that place where the evil comes out of.
But that's so that's a physical thing.
Yeah.
Like they thought the same thing about the atomic bomb.
Right.
They thought if we never set one off before, we could open up a new black hole.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
That's messing with physics.
Yeah.
This is taking man's consciousness, putting it in a box, and
you.
expecting good things to come out of it.
Yeah, I hear you.
It's not going to happen.
I would think that AI brain would be susceptible to demonic oppression and possession.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Which is weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Being you, yeah.
Well, if they can mess with our electronics, because our electronics never run right, do they, Matt?
No.
They always mess
The
with our
bathroom
stuff.
light's been turning on and off by itself again.
It does all the time. No, I would agree. I think you're right. I think they can.
Well, and then so you go to the Klaus Schwab group, and they have that bald little scary man, basically saying there is no God. You're a bunch of chemicals, and I'm going to control you.
Yeah.
And he's 89
Is he 89?
or 87 or something.
Klaus Schwab.
Yeah.
No. Listen, my only joy in all this is watching them die before they get there.
Hopefully George Soros is dead
like
because
a
he
little-
wasn't at their meeting.
It's like a little victory.
You think he's? You think
But they
that's
have
why?
they have body doubles, and this is all a little conspiracy. But they have body doubles. They have robots maybe that'll fill in for them. The demonic, if it really is, which it probably
Yeah,
is,
they may
they're just gonna
already
keep filling
think
in.
they have their consciousness in a box.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Yeah, look at Walt Disney.
Yeah.
What did he do? Freeze my brain.
Right.
Because I know
Right.
I'm
What's
gonna
coming?
be back. Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah. Well, I was just watching a podcast of a guy who, what university is he out of? I won't be able to remember it. But anyway, I mean, he really believes that there's coming a point in time where humanity will live 150, 200 years, and partly because of the technology, but also because, hey, people are freezing themselves. And when we get that technology, they can just reinstitute that stuff right back in and bring them back to life.
Captain America.
Yeah, exactly.
Or Chappie, the movie about the robot, where
Yeah.
people go in, they program it and dump it in, and then dump another consciousness in.
Yep.
and
Yeah.
That's
Well, that if you follow the lines, that actually is, I think, already being experimented with.
oh yeah,
Definitely. So I mean, Walt Disney, I think there's probably a timeline that he, wait, like when the VCR first came out, wait till it's the best model.
right.
that you
yeah,
put me in.
make sure that
Yeah.
it's working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I bet you. I mean, Disney would be right on the
That's
front of that.
I never thought about that, but I bet you're right.
Brandon, are
this
you the
is-
one that told me that the AI, they were asking it or doing something to it, and it literally said, next time you do that, would you ask my permission? Or who was telling me that?
Yeah,
That might have been Matt, but it wouldn't let it be shut off, is what I said.
Oh, that's okay. All right.
They wouldn't let it shut it off.
All right. And that's like Eagle Eye. Have you guys watched Eagle Eye yet?
No.
That's a good movie. You got to watch it this weekend.
All right, I'll
Eagle
send
Eye.
it to you, so.
I think. So back to our original spiritual warfare.
Yeah.
So, and you said, yeah, a lot of people are thinking if we get the right leader, and a lot of Christians are thinking, we get Trump in there, we get maybe Ron DeSantis, whatever they're thinking in there, it's everything's gonna be okay. We can go back to normal. We can go back to sleep. Problem is this wise as serpents, innocent as doves. You need to be paying attention. You need to be awake. And on that note, we need revival.
Yeah.
That's really the revolution, wherever you stand with it, whether you agree if you can overthrow a government or not. Okay, but the revolution didn't come until there was a revival. There was 10 years of, the Great Awakening, first Great Awakening came, and much of the nation went back to God. Before it was actually about 30, because it was in the 50s, 1750s, and then you have 20 years before, and then the preachers started preaching 10 years in against where, like Thomas Jefferson was saying, where Thomas Jefferson got a lot of his terminology was from pastors that were saying that these rights that the king is removing from us are given to us by God. Again, like you said, that's why you can't have a robot go work, is because they want to enslave you.
Right.
Not God,
Right.
but the devil. That's his whole plan, is
Correct.
to enslave humanity.
Yes,
And so, but that's not God's plan.
because he's the god of this world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he owns anyone that doesn't belong to God,
Right.
truthfully.
Yeah.
So those that are, but the thing is the people of God need to be awake. And we need to, the other thing we need to be, and so I watched a series, and I don't know if I don't even know if it's on YouTube anymore. Years ago, it was on YouTube back when the First Amendment still existed. But, yeah, for all. But it was called, I think it was something about the fall of the cabal or something like that. But, and I was getting scared. I watched it in my attic, right? It's a creepy place, late at night, watching it.
Sure.
So the kids don't have to see it. And I'm watching, it's a long series, and I'm getting creeped out about all the, the hidden societies and going all the way back to the Templars and all that. But, which I knew about. And I'm thinking that there's this new enemy that I don't know. And all of a sudden it hits me. I'm like,
No,
this is the devil.
it's the same garbage.
Yeah, I'm like, this is here. Now the whole conclusion of that
Was awesome.
series, but the series isn't good, I don't think.
I think
Depending.
JFK is coming back.
That would be fine. Here, hold on. And and I agree. I would JFK Jr. You mean? Yeah, I would. That would be awesome. You are right, and I agree with that. But that lady in particular makes it seem like he's Christ. She never mentions God.
Right,
She
no.
never mentions. So it's like if JFK comes back, he could be the Antichrist if we're not careful, and
No,
then many would fall.
Definitely.
You see what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. And
It'd be a great work of the devil.
the only thing that I found funny about that was they start getting into the Tesla power energy. Where it's like, oh, all right.
Yeah, it gets a little weird, but
does.
still, all that to say, I wish it would have concluded. It could be the return of JFK, and I'm fine with that. But then they said the return of the king, and they're making all this noise.
No,
and I'm like,
I know.
whoa. Christ is king.
You know
not
what's funny?
JFK,
There
not
was
Johnny.
I have Christian friends who, they're buying into that. They're like, yeah.
I know people who are looking at Trump like that. And I think Trump is decent and good. And some people are like, well, and then the people on the other side are like, oh, he's terrible, whatever. I'm like, you ever been to New York?
Yeah.
He's a New Yorker.
Right.
He's being blunt and honest like a New Yorker.
Right.
But I've seen Christians that, and I'm like, and one Christian in particular said to me, oh, I just can't wait till he returns. And I'm like, if only we were talking about Jesus.
Right. Yeah.
Like that.
That's who we should be hoping for.
That's who we should be hoping for, not
Right.
Trump's return, which would be good,
Right.
but not like Christ's return.
You know, this is what's sad about the whole Trump thing, because I'm a big Trump guy, but I'm not a big Trump guy. I personally, I don't think he's wonderful.
No.
I think he is about himself and self-preservation.
Yeah.
And his self-preservation needs this country to operate like it used to, so he can operate like he always has.
Yeah.
And that's fine with me,
Yeah.
as long as that means I can operate like I always have. And he seemed to be that live and let live type personality. That's really why I liked Trump.
Yep.
I don't know that I would have him over Christmas. Now, I do know that there seems to be moments, and you did hear stories, but that's all they were stories, about him having good character. But then there's also really greasy stuff.
And the other problem I have is the Christians leaders, the Christian leaders he involves himself with in particular, are usually heretics.
Right.
People who preach false doctrine.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, he needs to get some real Christians around. And he may have given his life to Christ, but
yeah, he may. No, listen, he may actually have made some kind of change in his life during his time as president. This period right here.
Yeah.
But up and before that, he's a Fabian socialist.
yeah.
And it's hard to believe that we have slipped so far away from our original intent and the way we operated that we all are crying out for a Fabian socialist to be our president.
Yeah.
I mean, that's ridiculous. But that's where we are.
Yeah, I think back to the other point is Elon Musk is the same way.
Yeah.
Elon Musk and Trump, and like you said, they're enemy of our enemies.
Right.
So right now we definitely
They are our
need to
friends.
be
Yeah.
allied with them, and
Right.
there may be points like Elon Musk had this thing that Babylon Bee did with him, an interview, and they asked him about Jesus, and he said, you know, if my soul needs saved and Jesus is in the business of saving souls, then yeah, I'll accept Jesus. He didn't do it, but he said he would, so it was interesting. So I don't know. We could see. I mean, they could both become Christians and believers. Right now, the most rich person is the most scariest, which would be Bill Gates,
Yeah.
who became the most rich over COVID. And what is awesome, if only I heard this said, and you can label it as conspiracy or not, but I think their taxes tell the story, that if only we would have been a genius like Nancy Pelosi and Bill Gates with our investments in the stock market,
Yeah.
where they made billions.
Right.
Well, Nancy millions, Bill Gates billions.
Yeah.
Off of these, these masks and gloves and
Have you ever tried? Have you ever tried to make money on the stock market?
I have tried.
It's impossible.
It is. I always lose money.
It's impossible. And I have friends. They always talk about how they're doing good here and they're putting money here and doing this, and then you talk to them like a year later, like, yeah, it's not so great.
Always.
But all of these people who are over us, man, it's like a slot machine that never shuts off.
Inside trading.
Yeah, right.
Insider trading.
Right.
All I know is if you don't want to put your money in the stock market, you can now legally gamble on football games.
Yeah.
You can play lottery too.
We have a whole new set of a whole new set of commercials to watch.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm learning about what's the one concept I'm having a hard time with my newfound freedom. Not odds. I'll think about it. It's not important.
But it's part of that whole
It's that
gambling
part of that
thing.
whole gambling thing, and they're talking about like, they'll give you $250 of free play
Okay.
to get going.
You know why? People aren't watching football because it was so anti-American. A lot of the military people stopped watching. once you start gambling, you put the money back on it, people are coming back. They
But-
lost all kinds of numbers.
But I mean, 200. They're gonna hand you like bank accounts. If a bank's trying to win you over, it's now $500. But I remember when it was $50. You know,
yeah.
like it to me, it's the same amount of it's stupid money.
Sign
That
up.
if everybody claimed it that it's available to, it would be bonds or money. $250 free dollars to suck you in to get you to do the thing.
Yeah.
How much money are they making?
Right.
It's got to be ridiculous.
What does the drug dealer do? Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Yeah,
Same thing,
try
yeah.
the stuff, man.
Yeah.
It's good.
Definitely. Well, I mean, it is getting about that time. But Dan, was there anything that coming on here that maybe you just wanted to throw out? I know we kind of talked a little bit about the passage that you had shared, and I think the reason I brought up the whole Antichrist thing was that the passage you shared is about when we enter into a place where we are persecuted, and our trust needs to be in the God of all creation who has the wisdom to speak. And so we can be silent, and then when he says speak, we can speak words of wisdom and words of redemption into whatever situation is there. But we have to be wise as serpents and as innocent and doves in that process. So anything else you wanted to share, to talk about, or throw out there as we're...
Well, as we're wrapping up, I was going to share something from Daniel Webster. You and I talked about.
Okay.
I don't know if that fits as much as the wrap up maybe would be. I don't know. I'll read it.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
We'll read it and see. But it might start a new conversation.
That's all right.
So this is Daniel Webster, cousin to Noah Webster, the founder of the public school, if you will, where the Bible was the only curriculum. But all right, good intentions will always be pleaded for every assumption of authority. It is hardly too strong to say that the Constitution was made to guard the people against the dangers of good intentions. There are men in all ages who mean to govern well, but they mean to govern. They promise to be good masters, but they mean to be masters. So we saw that with the COVID regulate. We saw that with our own governor. Now I'm getting myself in trouble. But, we saw...
You mean Governor Toadface?
Yeah.
Our governor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking in the windows.
Dude, thank gosh for our state house.
Praise God.
Yeah.
It's like you talked about FDR. I'd say God finally killed FDR and saved America.
Yeah. Right? No, it's true.
But yeah, so this is the thing. There will always be an emergency. Right now, I just heard the government's looking for a new emergency because COVID's up in May. They've milked that cash cow.
Cyber attack.
Well, they might do the cyber attack, but right now they're declaring that racism is the emergency until maybe the cyber attack comes.
That makes sense because
Well,
Al
cyber attack's going to be the global thing.
Well, yeah, but then you have Starlink. Is no such agency actually protecting America? I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's hard to know. So,
Yeah.
and we're getting into the deep stuff there.
Yeah.
No, well, yeah. I mean, I think it is because Al Sharpton's given a lot of talk time right
So is Obama. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
because there were the gang members that were hired by the Memphis police that beat a black man to death.
now. This is interesting you say this because I thought I was just going crazy, but Nathan and I were watching the videos that were released here just recently.
Gang violence.
All the way back in January 7th was when it happened, right?
Yeah.
And they're just now being released. And we're sitting there watching these, and we're like, okay, 4 of these cars that pulled this guy over and then went to the scene, okay, they didn't have their lights on. There was nothing on their cars. They were unmarked vehicles. And it wasn't until, 20-some minutes later after they'd beaten the guy to death that all of a sudden the police cars show up with police markings, and then they're there. Yeah. And then it also appeared, and maybe I'm wrong, but it appeared that there were paramedics or somebody on the scene with a defibrillator and a bag, and they walked over and they were just kind of like setting him up against, maybe I'm wrong, but they were like setting him up against the car, and then he was falling over and they were setting back. But it was like they didn't even know what they were doing. It was almost like they were actors on the scene to pretend like they were there to help the guy, and somehow it got filmed. And I know people are going to say, oh, Brian, you're just a crazy conspiracy. But I told Nathan, I said, I'm telling you what, I said, if I weren't if I weren't at least somewhat sane, I would say those aren't police officers. Those were people that were put in there to do that job.
Or it's a green screen.
Yeah.
Or it's a green screen. You could be right.
I think in this day and age, if we've learned nothing, especially from Trump, like you're saying, we should not trust anything recorded. Anything can be done. This is the only place we're going to find truth.
No, totally.
Nowhere else are we finding truth.
Absolutely. Right. Just talking with the wife yesterday. So she's watching Fox 8 in the morning, and she's like, the one chick on there, they have her on with the boohoo and the cancer, and she's in stage 0 breast cancer.
Okay.
So that means
they think she might get it one day?
They know you're going to get cancer, but you don't have it yet.
Okay.
And you're just like, but talking to Corey, she's like, I have a friend in Oregon who they said, you're cancer free. 2 months later, you're full of cancer, dead. So how come they can't take their powers of your stage 0, you have no cancer,
right,
and know that you do or don't have cancer, that you died? So we live in a world where it's your truth.
Yeah.
Whatever your truth is.
Yeah.
Okay? And if you want to think you've got cancer because they think you're going to get it, they will call you what you want to be.
Right.
But don't. That book is the only thing that you have to go on in reality.
Yeah.
We are. This whole world is unpinned and spinning like a dreidel.
Yeah.
So this is not meant to be disrespectful, but cancer is big business.
Oh yeah.
Oh sure.
Go to Cleveland. Look at the hospitals they're building off.
They'll
of
cut
COVID.
you up.
They're building it off of COVID.
I mean, now they don't even have to.
Hospital.
If they convince you that there's a stage 0 cancer,
you
could
sell
get cut
all
up
kinds of
tomorrow.
stuff. Yeah.
We could start. Yeah, we could start right away.
Wasn't that why? Was it Angelina Jolie had a double mastectomy because
just in case.
Because she had some kind of gene that she might get cancer?
That's
so that
crazy.
was that big thing, and the whole big. Yeah.
And all it takes is prayer,
right,
in the doctor of the universe, and faith on him.
Yeah.
You probably won't get cancer anyway.
Right.
Like, I don't know.
Or if you do, you gotta if you are right with Christ,
right,
and you
it
get cancer.
Matter.
Man, where you're going is so much better. It's not Trump or John F. Kennedy Jr.
Right.
It's Christ who's ruling.
Right.
And isn't it what, from the beginning of time, isn't it what the enemy's always tried to get us to do? And that is to not trust God, but to trust in our own faculties and our own way of doing things. And that's what the world does.
Yeah.
Distract us.
Yeah.
Always from what's real.
Yeah.
Or entertain us.
Yeah.
Even worse.
Back when we were having kids, so I have 4 kids. All I heard about with my first kid was how expensive it was going to be to have one child. Millions of dollars, right? And then you have 4 kids, and then you see people go, oh my gosh, 4 kids. I mean, no, it's all a lie.
Yeah.
I'm not doing everything that the TV says I should, because I don't need to.
Right.
We could come up with all kinds of false numbers for all kinds of things.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
One lie after another, you can believe.
I mean, it would, if you were going to raise your kids like Donald Trump's kids, it would bankrupt you.
Yeah.
But since you haven't, you're doing
Since
good.
I can't, and I won't, and I know that, like, sometimes you wonder if the kid could be left on a desert island by itself, it would be all right.
It probably would be.
Yeah. But a lot of things, maybe not as an infant, but
yeah.
I don't know. My 4 and 5 and 6-year-olds are pretty inventive.
Yeah. Yeah, I would. Yeah.
I really think all we're here for is to teach them that book. Like.
Oh yeah. Because I'm telling you what, if April and I don't do the dishes or clean the kitchen, eventually they clean it.
Really?
Yeah.
Stop it.
Because there's nothing they don't have anything to use. Oh, there's no silverware, there's no spatulas. What am I going to use? Oh, I better run the dishwasher.
Oh.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
I'm hoping when mine get older, that's where they get.
Oh, okay. Well,
I got a question.
Yeah.
So I watch a lot of these military interviews from SEALs to CIA contractors to whatever, and they all experience this stuff. You know what I mean? Very few of them, at least from what I see, go to Christ for healing. But a lot of them, or a majority of them, do the psychedelics for healing. And I'm wondering why and how they experience peace. Because a lot of them do. You know, I always thought that.
I think it's a false peace, really. Every time I talk to, because as a chaplain I do get to talk to like some special force guys and some warriors. I'm not a warrior, but I support them, right? You know, I always push them towards King David. What did King David do? He went to the Word. There are a lot of, it's interesting because most of the Navy SEAL special force guys, eventually they will find their way to Christ. Not always true, but I believe they do. Many when they leave the force, because the force, in a lot of ways, you have to be numb to do what they're being told to do, and it may be against their conscience. You know what I mean? And so that's hard to deal with, or even just taking life. It's hard. That's a hard thing to realize. You took someone else's life. Yeah, in the moment, you saved your buddies, you saved yourself, you protected your country, maybe, but yeah, I think they want to kill the pain, and they go to that, but they all know it's false. They know it's not real. And eventually, if they don't know at that moment, they will know very soon.
It seems like a lot of them are doing that.
Mm-hmm. They are.
You know, the DMT,
Mm-hmm.
the 5-MeO, and ayahuasca, but then they come out of that totally changed.
Well,
I'm not saying it's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm wondering what that piece is that they experience.
Yeah, and I think what he said is false, but it's a lie.
Of the devil.
Yeah, because I think a couple weeks ago when we were talking about this, that Brian Mirarskew, who wrote the book The Immortality Key, he wrote in there how past generations, even some of the Egyptian kings, they would be fearful to go into battle because they were fearful of dying. They would go to a chakra or guru that had the ayahuasca type stuff, and they would go in there and they would have this trip, and they would see into another realm, and they would be told that this is what your life will be afterwards, and they would come out of there with this boldness to go into battle because now they weren't afraid to die. And yet, if they went into that battle and they died without Christ, guess what? They will find out that that was all a lie.
It's a lie.
The stuff that I see, and I don't know if these people are being told that there'll be something else in a different realm or a different world. From what I see, they're just getting relieved of whatever they got going on.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, drugs will do that. They'll kill your senses, depending. You know,
Right.
they're gonna. Yeah. So it's gonna make you.
Like it rewires you. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about that for a long time, and
You know, I had this conversation. This is just a regular soldier. We were down on hurricane relief. There was a female, and she was just, she was excited to be in Louisiana because of all of the dark magic that goes on in Louisiana, and just kind of the Hollywood hyping it up.
Mm-hmm.
And we sat there on, right outside of New Orleans, and I told her, I'm like, Hollywood's a lie. It shows you, we're going back to the other thing, that shows you that the dark magic is so powerful, and you should want it when the real power is in Christ. And we see that in Acts. You shared in Acts. We see real power, not this fake, not, you know what I mean? And that's where I think a lot of the warriors that you're talking about will find their way to Christ at the VA or other places like that down the road, because they'll realize that the rest of it's all smoke and mirrors. It's like, anyway.
do you
Talking
think
about
they'll
our
find their
modern
way
worship.
not experiencing the DMT or that 5-MeO? You know what I mean? If they didn't do that, would they find their way, or they end up killing themselves?
I don't know. That's the hard thing. Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Because a lot of that stuff that, it's preventative for them to
Yeah.
take their life, to
Yeah.
go nuts. And that's the other factor. What if this guy didn't do that? I mean, would he have shot himself or took his life? Or
So, Brandon, just like your thought, like sometimes the Christian world is like, okay, if you need an antidepressant for a while till you get things straightened out, okay. Your thought is that could
I'm not saying it's good.
But but maybe your
I'm
thought
just
is
wondering what the is there a benefit? I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
could we say that?
Is there an acceptable use or
Is there
an
an
acceptable time
Yeah.
It
period?
could be. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
It's no different than maybe I used to be hooked on OxyContin, we'll say,
Right.
and me using marijuana now. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's going to become a reality because the psychiatric field as well as the medical field are not only experimenting but beginning to use psychedelics anyway in their practices. So it's going to become a reality.
In Vietnam, they used a lot of psychedelics
Yeah.
to get them to do the crazy things they did.
And I'm not saying it's right. It's just really interesting, you know, how that will prevent someone from taking their life and just trying to live their life peacefully. You know, I'm not saying that's the way, you know.
No.
It can't be the way because there is only one way.
Yeah.
And that's Christ.
Right. But I mean, Brandon, you yourself, you got free from antidepressants.
I did.
You took those for a long time, but once you found the peace in Christ, you were able to get free from that.
I was hooked on Xanax for 10 years. You know, I stopped it like that.
You probably have had times where you wanted to take it again, or
I have not, no.
have not? Wow,
No.
awesome.
No. But I'm struggling with a different thing right now, and I used to struggle with alcohol a lot. I drank a lot for a long time, and that was gone like that.
Yeah.
My tongue was gone like that. A lot of stuff in my life left like that, like the day I got saved here.
Yeah.
And a lot of it.
Well, when the sun sets you free, you're free indeed.
Yeah.
It's just realizing that or not.
Right. Yep.
It's awesome you were able to
Mm-hmm.
realize that.
It's a crazy thing.
So this other area you're struggling, you're still free. So
Yeah.
you need to embrace it.
Yeah.
Just gotta get
Sonship.
through it. Are you able to share with it or no?
Yeah. So our dog recently died. Okay. Our dogs are very important to us. And Raiden was only like 5. Perfect health. Needless to say, he got an infection. We thought he was going to make it. Other stuff went on. He ended up getting sepsis, passing away. $6,000 later, and no dog. Like all the praying we did, the church praying, Brian came over. I mean, everything was headed in the right direction. And I was experiencing communication between me and God.
Yeah.
And so was my wife. And Raiden passes away. Nothing. We have nothing. We have and it's still business as usual in my house. We read, we pray over our meal, pray over our home, try to attend where we can attend. Still business as usual with our relationship with God. But there's no communication back and forth for these past 2 weeks. None. I have gotten nothing. No peace. No, because we're trying to have kids. Those are our kids, so it's different for us. But there's nothing. And I'm frustrated with that. And I don't want to have resentment towards God, but I feel something in my flesh, and I know I shouldn't. But it's not just me, it's my wife too. She has gotten nothing, so we're struggling.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm going to give up on my relationship with God, but it's just like,
You need to know, and this is what I would be praying, I'll be praying for you, is in Romans 8:28, all things work together for good for those who love God. How is this? Not that it's good, not that I'm saying that situation's good, but how does this work, God?
Well, yeah, I was thinking that too. Like,
Yeah.
is it going to bring me closer to you? Is it going to bring me closer to my wife and everything? I don't know. It doesn't seem like that,
Yeah.
But when this was all going on, there was a lot of communication back and forth. Like I could feel something. Now it's just like the ties are ripped. And I feel nothing. And so does my wife, which is weird.
Yeah.
You know? And I never experienced that other than not being saved.
Yeah. It's kind of like stretching your faith a little.
It is.
You know what I mean?
Can I
Totally cut me off.
Can I ask a personal question?
Sure.
So during the time when you guys were communicating with God, and up until that point, would you say that you felt that God was caring for and providing for you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And I still think he is now.
Okay. So that was going to be my question. Do you feel like he let you down somehow?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
All right.
You know, because like everything was working right. You know, and
Yeah.
the let me down part is the feeling of no communication with him. Like I have nothing. Like I'm not getting any signal right now. You know what I'm saying? There's no signal.
Have you asked God why?
Change the station.
Yeah.
Change the frequency.
Every day.
I don't know. I'm not being
Yeah.
silly, but I'm just trying to think.
Every day, a lot.
Because between
Yeah.
the years of
And if I wasn't putting in my time or still doing my stuff, I get it. You're not going to give me nothing.
Yeah.
I get it. But I am.
Well,
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like a lot of the scriptures, or even guys in the Old Testament. The time of the dark night of the soul, where they would cry out to God and nothing.
yeah.
You know. And sometimes that's where our faith is built. You know, and so you got to hang on to that.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
But at the same time, it doesn't make it easier during that dark night when he's not speaking.
Mm-hmm. So we're trying to figure that out. And, like I do feel like a little distance. But like I said, my communication is still there.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I'm kind of putting up a wall. But then again, I'm not, because I'm still doing everything I'm supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's a weird thing, you know.
The other thing too, just a thought, is that don't forget that your relationship with Christ is never based on what you do.
I know.
He loves you, and he loves Sarah, because of who he is. Because he loves. That's who he is, and you're valuable to him. And whatever's going on in this time right now is, you know, he's working something out. But by you continuing to do what you're doing, that's for a benefit for you. But that doesn't make him say, okay, well, as long as he keeps doing this,
It doesn't make him love me more.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Doing all the stuff I do in my faith is, in my opinion, to get me where I need to go.
Yeah.
and be disciplined with it.
Yeah, that's
know.
what's right. Yeah.
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 If I don't do that, I'm gonna slack.
Yeah. That's
So,
good. Okay.
Do you so the times when I feel like there's no communication is usually when I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And even though like you feel like you're supposed to be doing something, we kind of talked about this when you got in here. Do you feel like maybe you had a right relationship with like your dogs in a way? Like, is there somehow your dogs meant more to you than God?
I wouldn't say, because if they did, I wouldn't be here right now.
Yeah, I get that. That makes sense.
You know what I mean?
That makes sense.
Yeah. And I wouldn't be.
So
wouldn't be coming to church.
without making it like personal or weird or whatever.
No, they meant more to me than if it was $20,000 to save them, it would have been done. You know what I mean? They mean that much to me here in this world.
Yeah.
You know?
So, I'm just thinking like.
Yeah, if it's
Is there a lesson there that maybe we can think about or ponder upon?
like
And I'm
something important, me being taken away, and then I should love God more.
Like, yeah, and like,
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Go. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Like,
get what you're
Job
saying.
said, the Lord gives and the Lord takes away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. You know,
Yeah.
that concept.
I get it.
It's tough, though.
Yeah.
No, it's not an easy thing. Like, you can't imagine.
Yeah.
You gotta hang in there. That's all.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
There's no
I mean,
reason to burn the house down.
no, we're doing it. It's just, it's like losing a person for us, you know.
I mean, if you're into it, I got a book, War, his name starts with a W, but it's called Draw Close to the Fire, and it's just a paperback. It's not a heavy read or anything, but it might be beneficial to you. I'll grab it off the shelf, give it to you.
And the other thing that kind of ticks me off is every morning, every night, throughout the day, I always pray for protection over my home, my animals, my loved ones, and I name them, you know.
Right.
And even certain things that I want protection of, you know,
Right.
like disease, I mean, health, everything.
Right.
And, you know,
That's
sucks.
Dude, that's a hard lesson to learn, because as much as we pray for our God who created the heavens and the earth and everything to do these things, we still have to trust that he's the one who controls it all. Like, we don't have control. Like, I pray for my boys every night that they'll come home safe. But in my mind, every once in a while, I'll think, if one night they don't come home, I still have to trust him that he's in control. And how am I going to do that?
That's hard, dude.
Yeah, sure. Yep. Because I'm telling you what, he's brought them home safely every night. But what if? But you can't play the what if games. But what if? What would I do? And I can't do anything but trust him, because he's the one who's in control.
Yeah, and if they don't, your face should still remain the same, but you're
But
going to
it's
be
not.
ripped apart here.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, I wouldn't worry about it. He'll be there.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to bring you up.
Yeah.
I know, Dan, you got a jet. I think it's 11:20.
Yeah.
All
But
right, we're gonna get out of here.
yeah, I think we'll get out, and then we'll pray with Brandon before he leaves. I know Dan's got a jet, but we'll pray with you before. But we'll get off. Thanks for joining us today. Have a great weekend. If you don't have a local church, find one that preaches the word. That's for sure.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck.
All right.
We're just keeping it real here.
We'll see you next week.
All right.
Go ahead. You finish out your thought.
Well, we got an error report.